Tennessee basketball picked up a massive win Friday night at Wisconsin. Grant Ramey, what a win to begin the season.
If you're calling me to lift spirits, we're in a bad place. I'm just going to be honest. I mean, yeah, it was. It was kind of a continuation of what we've seen from this basketball team. I don't think they've trailed yet at this point through 2 exhibition games and 2 regular season games, which is kind of crazy to think about. But, they've played that well offensively. They've played that well defensively. To go wire to wire at the Kohl Center in Madison and to kind of handle your business the way they did. They started pretty well, played pretty well throughout the first half, kind of withstood some Wisconsin runs, and they just kind of, so far, they've just handled their business in a very business-like manner. I mean, Dalton Connect continues to be the star. Josiah Jordan-James has been a lot better with Dalton Connect added to the mix. I think it allows Josiah to just be Josiah and not try to be Dalton Connect and be that explosive, productive kind of scorer that he struggled to be a little bit. I think it feels a little bit more natural to him, and they've just kind of settled in and played really good basketball. I mean, they're still ranked number 1 defensively in the KenPom ratings, and they're number 20 on offense. So they've increased their offensive efficiency without sacrificing anything on the defensive end. So from what we've seen, they've been really impressive.
Grant, the one thing that stands out to me, and they had the exhibition game in Michigan State without their 2 veteran backcourt guys. But we were talking about this earlier in the show about the Tennessee football team and kind of how you got to handle adversity. You got to withstand a run, right? You got to answer the bell when a team scores on you or something goes against you. This basketball team has been able to do that despite not always having their most veteran guys on the court. What do you liken that to? What's the reasoning for why they could do that? Because I thought that was impressive. Okay, the exhibition game, fouls don't count, all that kind of stuff. But, I mean, there was a couple of moments in the second half in Madison where that thing could have got really, really wild and woolly. But every time Wisconsin got close, Tennessee was able to make a play. Why do you think this team's been able to do that?
I think Dalton Connect's a big reason why, because it seems like the bigger the moment, the bigger shot he's looking for, and he hits. I mean, it got down to 3, I think, in the second half, and he had that really crazy baseline drive and finishes through contact and makes it and 1. And gets it back to 6. Then Tobe Awaka scores 2 big paint buckets to get it to 10. And after that, they're kind of rolling. But it feels like they just had that big-time shot in that big-time moment, whether it's Dalton or somebody else, Jordan Gainey coming off the bench and providing really instant offense when he's checked in. He's been a really good 6th man in the first half from what we've seen from Tennessee so far. I mean, that was basically the question I was asking Friday night in Madison is not only are you doing it and you're answering the adversity, but you're doing it so early in the season. I mean, to go to Michigan State and do that in October and to go to Wisconsin and do that, 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, that's really, really early in the season. And it's really tough in college basketball when you're on the road, when you're in a hostile environment and the floor is, all the momentum's on the other side of the court. It's tough to answer the bell. And the way they've been able to do it, and it just feels like they've just handled it in stride. I think it's because they're veterans. I think it's because they've added a couple good players out of the portal, and it's kind of all clicked so far.
Got a couple of things here from Donovan. Donovan says, Barnes has a closer in Dalton Connect, a guy that can shoot the 3 and drive to the basket. Also says Tobe Awaka rebounding is going to be a key factor for Tennessee. He should average 10 rebounds a game. Is that a number? I mean, I don't think the minutes would warrant that, at least right now. That'll evolve as the year goes on. But obviously Dalton Connect's huge. But how big should Tobe Awaka be for this team moving forward?
I thought Tobe played really well at Wisconsin. I thought he had 2 huge buckets in the paint. I don't know that that's always the shots that you want taken in that moment. It was great that he scored them, and he had some nice moves in the post to get those shots off, and they were big. But, yeah, he needs to be the rebounder that he's shown that he can be at times. I don't know about 10, but it needs to be a number that's up there. The thing with Tobe, it's going to be more limited opportunities because I think they're better playing small with Josiah at the 4 and either Tobe or Jonas on the floor at the 5, not those 2 on the floor together. So that might limit the minutes a little bit more. But, yeah, with Dalton in terms of being a closer, just some of the shots he takes. So, I mean, he takes over basically in the final 8 minutes at Wisconsin and kind of puts the team on his back. It's basically get Dalton the ball and everybody else get out of the way. So for him, that early, and what Rick keeps saying is he's still learning. He's still learning defensively. He's still learning a bunch of stuff. I mean, he's only been here a few months. If this is the version of the guy that we've seen and he's still learning, his ceiling seems pretty high.
All right, we'll get to more of Donovan's questions, but I want to ask you a little bit more about Dalton there. Obviously, players know other players can play, right? So, I mean, everybody in the locker room knows that the guy can play. But what does it say about his immersion into the culture at Tennessee and their immersion with him that we're pre-Thanksgiving, and he's the guy that you're running a clear out for, and Rick's telling him, hey, go get a bucket. Rick Barnes is saying, hey, go get me a bucket right here. I mean, that's a pretty – I know the portal's – that's what the portal's supposed to do, Grant, but to do it this early seems pretty incredible to me. Am I making too big of a deal out of that?
No, I think it speaks to the culture that Tennessee basketball has and has had for a long time now under Rick Barnes. I think it's the way this roster is built, the success they had the last couple seasons. They want to plug somebody in and keep winning basketball games, and that's what they've been able to do with Dalton. I think with Dalton too. His story is pretty crazy. To score it the way he did in high school and not really have any offers, to go to JUCO, to go to Northern Colorado, now to go to Tennessee, and he's scored at every single level, and it feels like he's been doubted at every single level and kind of been overlooked. And credit Tennessee's coaching staff to finding this guy and getting him on campus and closing the deal when they did get him on campus. And yeah, I think it's a testament to this Tennessee basketball team that they don't care who does it. They don't care who gets the credit for it. They just want to win basketball games. And right now they're playing really well.
I mean, I'm just amazed that he's been able to score in the variety of ways that he – I mean, look, scorers know how to score. I get that. But it's a three. It's a drive to the hoop and a foul. It's pinning a guy low and posting him up with a turnaround. It's a 15-foot jumper. It's like to me, the scouting book on him would be really hard because he's scored in so many ways already in just a handful of games at Tennessee.
I mean, it's almost like pick your poison because it felt like at times in the second half at Wisconsin he was forcing stuff, and it was a little bit of a struggle. And then he just turns it on the final 8 minutes and he finds a way to hit big shots. And what he's done so far, he's averaging 20 a game. He's only 3 for 10 from the 3-point line, and his 3-point shot is probably one of his biggest strengths. And he can attack the way he can attack and get to the rim, the way we've seen it, the way he did on the baseline there, just the way he can back people down like you're talking about, just straight up like a 4 or 5, just back to the basket, old school kind of big man basketball. That's been really impressive. And another thing with Dalton is, it played out Friday night. Once Dalton's in the corner, Josiah's driving to the rim, and the Wisconsin defense can't collapse on Josiah because they got to respect Dalton in the corner on that 3-point shot. And Josiah just backs down and scores right there. So it's not only all the different ways that Dalton can score, but it's the respect that defenses have to give him that opens up other opportunities for his teammates. And I think we've seen that so far.
How could this offensive look change, or how will it be different when Santi gets going, when Zakai works himself back into, playing 25 minutes a game? How can this change? Because you're doing all this right now, and I know it's just 2 games, but it's been a really good start for Dalton Connect. You're doing this without Santi and Zakai really being a factor in terms of scoring the basketball.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But you're going to get those 2 involved, and Sakai has struggled with his shot so far since he's got back. He's played a little bit. He played more minutes at Wisconsin than he did against Tennessee Tech earlier last week. Santi feels like a guy who, everybody kind of rolls their eyes at exhibition games, but you kind of need that to kind of, I don't know, fit in the rotation, or you've played your teammates all summer in basically split squad stuff on the practice court. Now you got to get all this team together and figure out where everybody fits and get the pieces together. It feels like he's still knocking the rust off. And he's a guy, I mean, at points last season, the entire offense was, can we get Santi a 3-point look and can he hit it? And now it feels like Santi's going to be able to get his shots off a lot easier because they got other options. They're deeper. They got Gainey. They got Connect. They got Josiah scoring at a better rate right now than he did last year. So it feels like, if anything, this offense should just get better because 2 of their best players, Zakai and Santi, haven't been themselves so far, and they're still working their way back to being themselves. So it should only get better in theory. We'll wait and see what happens.
All right. So, Grant, how does the rotation look like for this basketball team when they get all the parts back up to full speed, right? When you get all the rust knocked off Santi and you get Zakai back going. I mean, how do you rotate this thing? How does this thing play out? Is it hot hand guy gets more minutes as the game goes and you go in with set rotations? How do you do this thing?
I think Dalton's going to play 35, 36 minutes a night, and you figure out the rest from there. I mean, Jordan Gainey's going to be your 6th man. Zakai's going to play his minutes. Santi's going to get his minutes. I think what we saw at Wisconsin is Cade Phillips is a little bit ahead of schedule, probably ahead of JP Estrella, probably ahead of Cam Carr, some of those guys on the end of the bench because of the minutes he got at Wisconsin. Freddie DeLeon's a guy that's got to do work, in my opinion. He's a guy that's, he's kind of They didn't start him in the exhibition games, I think, to kind of send a message like you got to work harder, you got to do a little bit more to be part of this rotation and get your minutes. And then he played maybe 4 or 5 minutes at Wisconsin Friday night in the first half. I think he was a -4. We didn't see him in the second half, so he's got to do more. He's a guy that I'm trying to figure out where he's going to fit in on the rotation. But Gainey's played well. You know, Santi and Zakai are going to get back to being themselves eventually. Josiah, Tobe, Jonas. We'll see Jemai. I don't think Cam Carr. I don't think JP Estrella play big time minutes or are meaningful minutes in big time games, I should say.
I mean, you start counting and you're running out of fingers, right? I mean, you start
Right.
counting people. I mean, if they all stay healthy, that's going to be the interesting challenge for this team is just how all of that plays off of itself, and can everybody be good with it all? And I think the culture says that they can, but how they all handle that and how Rick Barnes handled that's going to be really fun to watch. It's a good problem to have, is what I'm saying.
You know what it's like. It's Ernest T learning math, and that's why Rick's stomping his feet over on the bench trying to count to 50.
25 and 25 equals 50. It's exactly what's going on there.
And answer this question here: is it harder to win it all in baseball, basketball, or football right now?
Right now at Tennessee.
Which is,
right
I think it's just in
football,
general. I mean, which sport is more difficult to win a championship in?
I mean, I think I'm biased because I follow college basketball closer than I follow football and baseball. I think you would say baseball. I think I've heard you say that before. Winning a College World Series is probably the hardest title in Europe. I think winning the NCAA tournament is so hard because you got to win 6 straight do or die elimination games. And basketball, you know, there's a reason they play a 5 and a 7 game series in the NBA playoffs, because it's more of a series sport than a 1 game sport, just like baseball. I mean, to have to win 6 straight, to have to win basically 3 4-team tournaments in a row, it's really difficult. Because you got to be playing perfect at the right time of year. You got to get the right matchups. You got to get stuff to fall your way. I mean, look at Tennessee. They've ran into Loyola Chicago and FAU on their way to Final Fours. I mean, what are the odds that happens to anybody? Those two kind of teams going on a Final Four run and getting in the way of 2 really good Tennessee basketball teams. So, in my opinion, it's extremely difficult to win the NCAA tournament. That's why I have a lot of respect for the coaches that get consistently to Final Fours and have multiple championships. That's crazy to me.
All right, Grant. Well, we appreciate it, man. Thanks for hopping on here and lifting the spirits. I know typically that's not your role, but we did have one more question. If Volquest, I don't know where. Oh, here it's from Donovan. Donovan's great at questions here. If Volquest had a basketball team, who is running the point guard? Give us your starting 5 of Volquesters.
Well, there's only 5 of us, so everybody.
Yeah, give us the position here.
I'm not running point because I'm shooting every time I get the ball. I've been told before from those that have played pickup basketball with me that I'm there's never been anything but a green light in my eyes on any time I have possession. So I would go Eric at the point. I would go at the 2 so I could chuck it up a bunch. And outside of that, I don't know. I don't know if Hubbs is more of a 3.
It's not
get Rob down at the 5. AP
not.
could be the stretch 4. I don't know if you can play basketball on a Peter Millar polo, but we'll see what happens. Just put me at the 2 and let me shoot it.
If there's a way, he'll figure it out. Trust
me. Grant Ramey, volume shooter,
right,
ladies
right.
and gentlemen. That sums it up right here. Volume shooter, Grant Ramey, for sure.